The courtroom doors burst open as Malik Carter strode down the aisle, his polished Oxfords clicking against the marble floor. Every head turned, some in surprise, others in barely concealed disdain. At the defense table, his client, a black teenager named Jamal Williams, sat slumped in an oversized orange jumpsuit, his wrists shackled to the table. The charge? Murder of a white college student. The evidence? Flimsy at best. The jury? All white. The prosecutor, a silver-haired man with a reputation for crushing defendants like Jamal, smirked as Malik approached. Well, he drawled, loud enough for the jury to hear. Looks like they finally found someone desperate enough to take this case. Malik didn't flinch. He set his briefcase down with deliberate calm and leaned in, just close enough for only the prosecutor to hear. Desperate? He smiled. No, just better. The gavel cracked. All rise for the Honorable Judge Harold Whitaker. The judge's eyes locked onto Malik the moment he took the bench. Cold. Calculating. Malik had seen that look before. The same look that had followed him through law school, through every courtroom, every time he dared to excel in a world that never expected him to. This case wasn't just about Jamal. It was about proving they were all wrong. The prosecution's opening statement was a masterclass in manipulation. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the prosecutor began, his voice dripping with false sympathy. This is a case about a promising young life cut short. A life taken by that young man. He pointed at Jamal like he was pointing at a rabid dog. Malik watched the jury's faces, saw the way their eyes hardened, the way one woman, juror number 4, a middle-aged blonde with a pinched mouth, glanced at Jamal and subtly shifted her purse further away. When it was Malik's turn, he didn't stand immediately. He let the silence stretch, let them wonder. Then, slowly, he rose, buttoning his suit jacket with deliberate ease. You're right, he said, his voice carrying effortlessly. This is about a promising young life. He turned, facing Jamal. A murmur rippled through the courtroom. The prosecutor scoffed. Your Honor, is this really necessary? Judge Whitaker's lips thinned. Watch your tone, Counselor Carter. Malik didn't back down. Jamal Williams isn't just some young man. He's an honor student, a volunteer at his local community center, a kid with no record, no history of violence. And yet, the police decided he was guilty the moment they saw him. He paused, just like some of you already have. Juror number 4 stiffened. Malik walked toward the jury box, his gaze steady. This case isn't about evidence. It's about expectations. And I'm here to prove every single one of them wrong. The first witness was the arresting officer, Detective Ray Collins, a bulldog of a man with a reputation for getting confessions. Malik approached the stand, a manila folder in hand. Detective Collins, you testified that Jamal fit the description of the suspect. Can you tell us what that description was? Collins smirked. Black male, late teens, hoodie. Malik nodded. So, half the kids in his neighborhood? The prosecutor shot up. Objection. Sustained, Judge Whitaker snapped. Malik didn't react. He opened the folder. Detective, is this the signed confession you obtained from Jamal? Collins puffed up. Yes. He admitted it. Malik turned a page. Funny, because the timestamp on this shows it was signed at 3:17 a.m. After 7 hours of interrogation. With no lawyer present. He paused. And no parent. The jury shifted. Collins' jaw tightened. He waived his rights. Did he? Malik pulled out another sheet, a grainy still from the interrogation room footage. Jamal, slumped over a table, eyes swollen from exhaustion. This looked like a kid who understood what he was signing. The prosecutor stood again. Your Honor, this is overruled, Judge Whitaker said, though his tone suggested he hated every second of it. Malik pressed on. Detective, you also testified that Jamal's fingerprints were found on the murder weapon. Collins nodded smugly. That's right. Malik turned to the jury. Then why did the actual killer's DNA turn up on that same gun 2 days ago? The courtroom erupted. As Malik returned to his seat, Jamal leaned over, his voice a whisper. They ain't gonna let me walk, man. No matter what you do. Malik didn't look at him. Watch me. Across the room, the prosecutor huddled with his team, shooting Malik venomous glances. Judge Whitaker's fingers drummed impatiently on the bench. And in the back row, a man in an expensive suit watched Malik with quiet intensity, taking notes. Malik had seen him before, In other high-profile cases where black defendants mysteriously ended up with maximum sentences. This wasn't just a trial. It was a game, and Malik was just starting to play. The courtroom buzzed like a kicked hornet's nest after Malik's DNA revelation. Reporters in the gallery scrambled for their recorders, while juror number 4, the purse clutcher, finally looked at Jamal with something other than disgust. Confusion. Detective Collins' neck flushed an angry red. That evidence wasn't submitted? Malik arched a brow, holding up the lab report. No, it wasn't. Because your office suppressed it. He turned to Judge Whitaker. Your Honor, I move to dismiss all charges based on prosecutorial misconduct. The prosecutor shot up so fast his chair screeched. This is an ambush. That document hasn't been authenticated. Malik didn't blink. It's stamped with your office's own evidence number. Would you like me to read the date? He made a show of squinting at the paper. Oh look, 3 days before you charged Jamal. A muscle twitched in Judge Whitaker's jaw. Approach. At the bench, the judge's whisper was icy. Where the hell did you get this, Carter? Malik kept his voice just loud enough for the court reporter to catch. Public records request. Took 3 tries after your clerk, lost the first 2. The prosecutor's breath smelled of peppermint and panic. Your Honor, this is... Don't. Whitaker cut him off with a slash of his hand. He glared at Malik. We'll recess to review this alleged evidence. 1 hour. The gavel cracked like a gunshot. The hallway outside the courtroom hummed with tension. Jamal's mother, a nurse still in her blue scrubs from the night shift, gripped Malik's arm. They gonna let him go now? Before Malik could answer, a voice slithered over his shoulder. Not a chance in hell. District Attorney Richard Vaughn leaned against the water fountain, his tailored suit costing more than Malik's entire wardrobe. Nice theatrics, Carter. But you and I both know that DNA could have been transferred anytime. Malik stepped between Vaughn and Mrs. Williams. Funny how transfer only matters when it's a black defendant. Vaughn's smile didn't reach his eyes. Careful. Ambition is one thing. Burning bridges is another. He flicked invisible lint off his sleeve. Especially for someone with your background. The unspoken threat hung in the air. Malik's background. The 6 months he'd spent in juvie at 14 after a false shoplifting accusation. The record that was supposed to be sealed. Malik's phone buzzed. Unknown number. A single photo. His childhood mugshot with the words, "Know your place," scrawled across it. His head snapped up. The mystery observer from the gallery stood at the far end of the hall, slipping his phone into his pocket before disappearing around the corner. The recess dragged into 90 minutes, a clear power play. When court reconvened, Whitaker's ruling was predictable. Motion denied. The jury will disregard the alleged DNA report. Murmurs erupted. Malik stayed calm. He'd expected this. Planned for it. Then I call my first witness. Dr. Elena Gutierrez, forensic analyst. The prosecutor shot up. Objection. She's not on the witness list. Malik didn't smile. She is now? Page 37, subsection C of discovery rules allows for. I know the damn rules. The prosecutor's face purpled. Whitaker massaged his temples. Make it quick, Carter. Dr. Gutierrez took the stand, her crisp lab coat a stark contrast to the courtroom's wood paneling. Malik handed her the DNA report. Can you explain these findings to the jury? She adjusted her glasses. The blood under the victim's fingernails matches a known felon, Darius Boone, whose mugshot, she tapped her tablet, was in the original suspect lineup. Detective Collins showed witnesses. Collins stiffened. Vaughn started scribbling furious notes. Malik let that sink in before dropping the hammer. And the gunshot residue tests the police claimed were inconclusive. Dr. Gutierrez didn't hesitate. Conclusive. Jamal Williams had none. Darius Boone's hands tested positive 3 hours after the shooting. Juror number 4 gasped. The prosecutor was halfway out of his seat when Malik turned to the judge. Given this new evidence, I move for immediate dismissal. Whitaker's gavel hovered. The courtroom held its breath. Then, a commotion at the doors. 2 officers dragged in a handcuffed Darius Boone, his orange jumpsuit identical to Jamal's. Your Honor, Malik said softly. Meet the real killer. Boone's wild eyes locked onto Detective Collins. You said I was covered. You said. The gavel came down like thunder. Order. Order in this court. Chaos erupted. Reporters surged forward. Vaughn whispered frantically to Collins. And through it all, The mystery man watched Malik with something new in his gaze. Not anger. Fear. That night, Malik's office phone rang. No caller ID. You've made powerful enemies today. A voice like gravel. Malik leaned back, staring at the case files spread across his desk. Tell Vaughn he can threaten me himself next time. A dry chuckle. Vaughn's small potatoes. The people I represent? They own judges, prosecutors, even ambitious black lawyers who don't know when to quit. Malik spun his pen between his fingers. Guess I'm a slow learner. Last warning, Carter. Drop the case, or we'll bury you with it. The line went dead. Outside, a car idled across the street. The mystery observer. Watching. Waiting. Malik turned off the lights and sat in the dark. Planning. The next morning, the courthouse buzzed with reporters. Overnight, someone had leaked Darius Boone's confession and Detective Collins' involvement in the cover-up. Vaughn intercepted Malik at the metal detectors. You'll regret this. Malik adjusted his tie. How's Collins enjoying his suspension? Inside the courtroom, Jamal sat straighter in his chair. Hope flickered in his eyes for the first time. But Judge Whitaker's expression was stormy. Before we proceed, Counselor Carter, a matter of professional conduct has been brought to my attention. He slid a document across the bench. Malik's sealed juvie record. Vaughn smirked. Given counsel's criminal history, we moved to have him removed from. The doors burst open. Every head turned as an elderly black woman marched down the aisle, her cane tapping like a metronome. The gallery erupted in whispers. Judge Whitaker paled. Mother, retired Chief Justice Evelyn Whitaker ignored her son, fixing Vaughn with a stare that had made generations of lawyers quake. You disgraced that badge. She turned to Malik. Counselor, proceed. For the first time in his career, Malik saw real fear in Vaughn's eyes. The game had changed, and Malik was just getting started. The courtroom fell so silent Malik could hear the rustle of retired Chief Justice Whitaker's silk blouse as she took a seat in the front row. Her son, the presiding judge, gripped his gavel like it was the only thing keeping him upright. Mother, Judge Whitaker repeated through clenched teeth, this is highly irregular. Evelyn Whitaker adjusted her pearl necklace with deliberate calm. What's irregular, Harold, is watching you preside over a lynching disguised as a trial. A collective gasp rippled through the gallery. The court reporter's fingers froze above her stenograph machine. Even Jamal turned wide eyes toward Malik, who kept his expression neutral despite the adrenaline surging through his veins. The prosecutor found his voice first. Your Honor, I must object to this. Be quiet, Richard. Evelyn didn't raise her voice, but the command in it made Vaughn's mouth snap shut. I read the DNA report. My book club could try this case better than you bumbling fools. Malik hid a smile. He'd overnight those files to Evelyn's Martha's Vineyard home himself, gambling that the legendary jurist wouldn't tolerate injustice, even from her own son. Judge Whitaker's face had turned an unhealthy shade of puce. We'll take a recess, too. No. Evelyn tapped her cane once. The sound echoed like a gunshot. You'll hear Dr. Gutierrez's testimony. Then you'll dismiss these charges before this circus makes national news. The mystery observer, now identified as a corporate lobbyist named Gregory Langford by Malik's investigator, slipped out the back doors, phone pressed to his ear. Detective Collins sweated through his dress shirt under the fluorescent lights. Malik sat across from him, the recording device between them blinking red. You have no right to question an officer of the law? Malik slid a photo across the table, Darius Boone's signed statement implicating Collins in the frame-up. Funny, neither did Jamal Williams. Collins' left eye twitched. I followed procedure. Which part? The falsified confession. Malik produced another document. Or the $50,000 deposit from a shell company linked to Vaughn's campaign fund. The detective's breathing grew ragged. Malik leaned in, lowering his voice. Here's what's going to happen. You'll testify against Vaughn and Langford. Or I'll make sure your wife sees the photos from your fishing trips with that vice cop from the 12th precinct. Collins' face went slack. How the hell? Malik stood, straightening his cuffs. The innocent kid you railroaded? His cousin works at your favorite motel. Rain sheeted down as Malik approached his car, the case files heavy in his briefcase. A shadow detached itself from the concrete pillar. Langford. Clever play with the old lady. He stepped into the dim glow of a safety light, his Burberry trench coat dripping. But you're in over your head, Carter. Malik thumbed the recorder in his pocket. How deep does it go? Langford smiled, revealing teeth too perfect to be real. Deep enough that 3 Supreme Court justices owe favors to the men who own me. Deep enough that your little victory today just signed Jamal Williams' death warrant. Ice flooded Malik's veins. You touch him and what? Langford chuckled. You'll sue? Vaughn's already preparing obstruction charges against you. That sealed record? Just the beginning. Headlights flared as a black SUV rolled toward them. Langford turned up his collar. Last chance. Walk away a hero. Or keep digging and find out why they call it the justice system. The SUV door opened. Malik caught a glimpse of a familiar face inside. The vice mayor, holding a manila folder with Malik's bar license number sharpened across it. Langford climbed in without looking back. The tires screeched against wet concrete as they vanished into the storm. Malik stood there, rain soaking through his suit, realizing the horrifying truth. This wasn't a case. It was a war, and the other side had just declared nuclear options. Jamal paced the tiny apartment like a caged panther. They're gonna kill me in prison, man. You know it. Malik ignored him, studying the whiteboard his investigator had assembled. Photos, bank records, and a flowchart connecting Vaughn, Langford, and half the city's power players. Mrs. Williams wrung her hands. We should run. Mexico, maybe. No. Malik circled a name on the board. Evelyn Whitaker's old law partner, now a senator. We fight smarter. His burner phone buzzed. Unknown number. A video file loaded, grainy security footage from the night of the murder. Malik's breath caught. The shooter wasn't Darius Boone. It was Vaughn's nephew. The screen went black. Then text appeared. They killed my son too. E.W. Malik looked up to find Jamal and his mother staring. Change of plans, he said softly. We're not just getting you acquitted. He grabbed his coat. We're burning the whole damn system down. The safe house smelled of stale coffee and gun oil. Malik pressed play on the video again, freezing it at the moment the shooter turned toward the streetlight. The sharp nose, the Vaughn family chin. Undeniable. Jamal's mother let out a strangled sound. That's the DA's nephew. Malik's investigator, a grizzled ex-cop named Torres, whistled low. Jason Vaughn. Kid's got sealed juvie records for assault. Daddy pulled strings to get him into state U. Rain lashed against the boarded-up windows as Malik studied the timestamp. This was taken at 10:03 p.m. The police report claims the murder happened at 9:45. Torres tapped another file. Because Collins altered the 911 logs. Here's the original. Call came in at 10:07. Jamal sank onto the sagging couch, his chains clinking. So they picked some random black kid to take the fall. His voice cracked. Just like always. Malik's phone buzzed. Evelyn Whitaker. Meet me at the old courthouse. Bring Torres. 30 minutes. The message disappeared before he could reply. The abandoned courthouse, for 18 a.m. Evelyn stood beneath the crumbling rotunda, her silhouette backlit by flickering emergency lights. The place smelled of mildew and memories. This was where she'd tried her first case 60 years ago. She didn't turn as Malik approached. They killed my clerk in 78. Left his body in the river for sending me evidence on a police brutality case. Torres stiffened. Malik kept his voice steady. Why show me this video now? Finally, she faced them. In the dim light, her eyes glittered with unshed tears. Because Jason Vaughn murdered my great-nephew last month. Made it look like an overdose. Malik's breath caught. The connections snapped into place. The senator's sudden retirement. Evelyn's uncharacteristic public outbursts. This wasn't just about Jamal. Evelyn pressed a key into Malik's palm. Safe deposit box 217 at First National. Everything I've gathered on the syndicate. Her grip was surprisingly strong. They owned judges, prosecutors, even the police union president. Torres exhaled sharply. Christ. That's why Collins played along. A floorboard creaked above them. All three froze. Evelyn's whisper was urgent. Go. The back stairwell. Malik hesitated. What about you? For the first time, the old judge smiled. I've been waiting 40 years for this fight. They slipped out as heavy footsteps descended the main staircase. First National Bank, 5:02 a.m. The night manager took one look at Evelyn's key and paled. I can't open that box without Mr. Langford's authorization. Malik leaned across the counter. How many people you think Langford's framed? How many Jamal Williamses? The manager's hands shook as he led them to the vault. Box 217 was larger than Malik expected, the size of a small microwave. Inside lay 3 items. A ledger detailing payments from the Chamber, Langford's lobbying group, to dozens of officials. A USB drive labeled Operation Blind Justice. A worn leather journal. Evelyn's handwritten account of every corrupt deal she'd witnessed. Torres flipped through the ledger. Holy shit. They've been running this racket since the 90s. Planting evidence, burying cases. Malik's phone buzzed, a news alert. Breaking, retired Chief Justice Evelyn Whitaker found dead in courthouse. Apparent heart attack. The USB slipped from his fingers. Torres caught it. They're cleaning house. Outside, dawn painted the sky in bloody hues. Malik stared at Evelyn's journal, open to a page with Vaughn's name circled repeatedly. One sentence stood out. The nephew is the key. The abandoned factory, 7:30 a.m. Jason Vaughn paced the graffiti-covered warehouse, his designer sneakers crunching broken glass. I told Uncle Rich this would happen. That old bitch had copies of everything. The man in the shadows, Langford's enforcer, spoke calmly. We'll handle it. Jason whirled, his face slick with sweat. Handle it? They have video of me. He kicked a rusted oil drum. That black lawyer's probably taking it to the feds right now. The enforcer checked his watch. No, he's taking it to Vaughn. Jason froze. What? A smile in the darkness. Your uncle's orders. We let Carter think he's won. Then, a gloved hand mimed a gun firing. But the evidence. We'll point to Darius Boone. Again, the enforcer stepped into the light, revealing the vice mayor's face. After all, prisoners riot all the time. Jason's laughter echoed off the rotting walls. The federal building, 8:15 a.m. Malik stood at the security checkpoint, briefcase heavy with evidence. The guard eyed him suspiciously. Purpose of visit? Meeting with Assistant U.S. Attorney Rodriguez. He flashed his bar card. The guard's scanner beeped red. Hold on. Malik's nape prickled. The lobby TVs suddenly switched from morning news to a mugshot. His teenage booking photo. Arrest warrant issued for attorney Malik Carter on charges of witness tampering, and the security guards moved to block the exits. Torres grabbed Malik's arm. Back door. Now. They sprinted past startled clerks, bursting into the alley just as black SUVs screeched to a halt at both ends. Langford stepped out, holding a familiar leather journal, Evelyn's. Looking for this? He tossed it into a gutter puddle. Funny how evidence disappears. Malik's hand crept toward his pocket recorder. Langford sighed. Really? After everything. He nodded to the snipers on the roof. Torres shoved Malik behind a dumpster as the first shot rang out. The safe house, 9:47 a.m. Jamal paced like a caged animal. They got Malik? For real. Torres, bleeding from a graze wound, nodded grimly. Set him up perfectly. They'll have him disbarred by noon. Mrs. Williams clutched her rosary. So it's over. A knock at the door. They froze. Then, 3 quick raps, too slow. Malik's signal. Torres peered through the peephole. Jesus H. Malik stood in the hallway, suit torn, one eye swollen shut. In his arms, a bound and gagged Jason Vaughn. Meet our star witness. The boy's eyes bulged with terror. Malik dropped him at Jamal's feet. Now we play their game. The safe house bathroom reeked of bleach and fear. Jason Vaughn sat duct-taped to a wooden chair, his Lacoste polo stained with sweat and the remnants of his breakfast. Malik leaned against the chipped sink, watching the boy's chest rise and fall in panicked bursts. You can't do this, Jason wheezed. His left eye had started twitching 20 minutes ago and hadn't stopped. My uncle will. Have you killed? Malik interrupted. He held up the burner phone they'd taken from Jason's pocket. Like he had Evelyn Whitaker killed? Like he tried to have Jamal killed? Jamal stood in the doorway, arms crossed. The sight of his accuser bound and helpless made his knuckles whiten around the doorframe. Torres flipped through Jason's wallet. Funny. Your ID says you're 23. That video shows you buying beer at the campus liquor store the night of the murder. He held up a credit card. With this. Jason's breathing hitched. That doesn't prove. Malik pressed play on the phone. A voicemail from Richard Vaughn played tinny through the speaker. Asterisk, Jason, stop calling. The Boone kid took the fall. Just stay quiet and, asterisk. The recording cut off as someone pounded on the front door. Everyone froze. 3 heavy knocks. Silence. Then 2 more. Torres exhaled. That's our guy. Mrs. Williams barred the bathroom door with her body as Torres let in the visitor, a grizzled reporter named Carter with ink-stained fingers and a nose that had been broken 3 times. "You're crazier than Evelyn was," Carter muttered, setting up a tripod. "Live streaming a confession? They'll disappear you." Malik adjusted the camera angle. "Not if the whole world's watching." Jason started thrashing. "You can't. My uncle will." Jamal ripped the duct tape off in one motion. "Say hello to your audience." The red light blinked on. District Attorney's Office, 11:37 a.m. Richard Vaughn stared at the live feed on his office monitor, his coffee cooling untouched. Jason's tear-streaked face filled the screen. Was supposed to just scare him. But he fought back and the gun went off, and Uncle Rich said they'd pin it on some black kid like always. The video cut to Malik holding evidence photos. "These are the original 911 logs Detective Collins altered. This is the security footage from the liquor store. And this," he held up Jason's bloody polo shirt from that night, "is what the real killer wore." Vaughn's intercom buzzed. "Sir? CNN is in the lobby, and the U.S. attorney just called." He silenced it with a fist to the button. On screen, Malik continued, "We're transmitting all evidence to every major news outlet and federal agency." The system failed Jamal Williams. It failed Evelyn Whitaker. But today, Vaughn's monitor went black. Langford stepped out of the shadows, holding a cable. "Damage control. They have copies," Vaughn whispered. "Of course they do." Langford smoothed his tie. "But without Jason in custody, it's just more conspiracy theories." A text chimed on Vaughn's phone, an address in the industrial district. Langford smiled. "Our team is already moving. By tonight, this will be handled." The industrial district, 12:59 p.m. The abandoned textile mill loomed like a tombstone against the overcast sky. Malik watched from the rusted-out shell of a delivery van as 3 black SUVs rolled up to the loading docks. Torres adjusted his earpiece. 6 hostiles. Armed. Jamal crouched lower. "This ain't enough people." Malik checked the Glock Torres had given him. "We're not here to fight." He nodded to Carter, who was live-streaming from a second-floor window. "We're here to prove a pattern." The warehouse doors screeched open. Langford strode in, flanked by men in tactical gear. "Jason." His voice echoed off the corrugated metal walls. "Come out now and this ends clean." Silence. Langford sighed. "Malik, I know you're listening. You've made your point. But ask yourself, who's going to believe a disgraced lawyer and a convicted murderer over the district attorney of?" A gunshot rang out. Langford dropped like a puppet with cut strings. Chaos erupted as the tactical team scrambled for cover. Vaughn screamed from somewhere in the shadows. "I didn't authorize this." More gunfire. More bodies. Malik's blood ran cold. This wasn't their play. Torres grabbed his arm. "We need to move. Now." They slipped out the back as tires screeched in the distance. The trap had been sprung, just not by them. Undisclosed location, 2:30 p.m. The basement safe house smelled of mildew and gun oil. Jason Vaughn rocked back and forth on a cot, muttering about cleaners and loose ends. Mrs. Williams bandaged Torres' arm where a stray bullet had grazed him. Who shot Langford? Malik studied the news feeds on his laptop. Every major network was running Jason's confession, but the warehouse shootout was being spun as a drug deal gone bad. No mention of Vaughn. No bodies recovered. Too neat. His burner phone buzzed. Unknown number. A video file loaded, showing Vaughn being forced into an unmarked van by men in FBI jackets. Then a text. Asterisk. "The chamber thanks you for removing 2 liabilities. We'll take it from here." Asterisk. Malik's stomach turned. They'd been played. The real power players had used them to eliminate Vaughn and Langford. Jamal peered over his shoulder. "So we won." Outside, thunder rumbled. Malik thought of Evelyn's journal, of all the names they hadn't exposed yet. "No," he said softly. "We just saw the first card in the deck." The lights flickered as a car idled outside. The game was far from over. The rain fell in silver sheets as Malik stood outside the courthouse, watching them unshackle Jamal's wrists for the last time. The boy rubbed his raw skin, blinking like he'd forgotten what sunlight felt like. His mother clung to him, her sobs muffled against his shoulder. Malik's hands stayed in his pockets, fingers brushing Evelyn's journal. The victory felt hollow. Yes, Jamal walked free. But Vaughn had vanished. Langford was dead. And the chamber? still operating behind new faces. The news vans had already moved on to the next scandal. Torres took early retirement after Internal Affairs opened an investigation. Jason Vaughn entered witness protection with a new identity, another privileged kid getting a second chance Jamal would never have seen. Mrs. Williams pressed a folded note into Malik's hand later that night. From Evelyn. The elegant script read, "The war isn't won in courtrooms. It's won in classrooms. Build something they can't corrupt." Malik stood before his bathroom mirror a week later, trimming the beard he'd grown during the case. The man staring back had harder eyes, deeper lines. He'd entered this fight to save one kid. Now he carried the weight of all those still trapped in the machine. The ribbon-cutting ceremony at the new community center smelled of fresh paint and hope. Jamal, now working as a youth counselor, grinned as Malik fumbled with oversized scissors. Dozens of black teens watched, some holding LSAT prep books donated by Evelyn's estate. Outside, a dark sedan idled briefly before driving away. Malik met the driver's mirrored sunglasses for one heartbeat before turning back to the crowd. The system hadn't changed, but he had, and that was a start.